on this computer. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katie Cleesby, and I'm the founder of Rexpert, a marketplace to find recreational activities and coaches near you. And this is our Wellness Wednesday. So every Wednesday, we love to collaborate and pull in some fabulous guest speakers and experts in their area. And today we have Christine Langley. How do you say the double last name?
It's Langley-Obaugh.
Obaugh. Okay, thank you. I'm so bad at last names. And Christine, I've run into her a couple times in the local area here in Loudoun County, Virginia, and I've been so impressed with her professionalism. She owns the owner and founder of Strest. So it's a local I think you have a physical. I'll let you tell everybody about it, but she's great with the mind strategy, energy therapy, introspective journey to reflect, heal, integrate the mind, body, and soul. And so she's going to be our guest speaker today for the event, Screen Time in Childhood Health, Navigating the Digital Age. So welcome, Christine, and I'll let you take it away.
I'm hearing some background noise, so if you all could mute your microphones if there's noise going on in the background, that would be great. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and just mute oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to mute you. I was just going down the list. Ask to unmute. I think, there we go. I'm gonna mute my.
Okay. So yes, I founded Strest about 10 years ago. I have a Percival location. I hold a master's in counseling from George Mason University. I am trained in a plethora of healing modalities. I believe clients need options to healing. I'm considered a holistic practitioner. I offer Reiki, rapid memory healing, applied metapsychology, life stress reduction, traumatic incident reduction, mind strategy for athletes, mind strategy for weight loss, intuitive guidance. I also do life purpose sessions and help entrepreneurs in assessing where they are business wise and releasing what doesn't serve them. I appreciate everybody joining today. I'm just going to jump in if that's okay. And let me see if I can share my screen here. There we go. And can everybody see that okay?
Yes. Yeah, looks
Okay,
great.
perfect. So I've put this together within the last couple of days. I am no expert in this field, so feel free to educate me. Feel free to teach me something today. I did do some research. I have put some things together, and I hope it's helpful. So this is Screen Time and Childhood Health, Navigating the Digital Age. Also trying to keep in mind that everybody probably has children of different ages. And that's important too. I've put together just a few slides that we're going to go over advantages, impact, strategy, solutions, some resources, and maybe have some discussion. And Katie, feel free to stop me, or if anybody has a question, or please feel free to interrupt and let me know. My positive leadership class told me that when you start on a positive, you end on a positive. So I'm going to be going over the advantages of screen time. Right, we can there's polarity and duality in all things, so all things have positive and negative traits, but there are several advantages here, to include cognitive development, communication skills, creativity skills. I did come across a couple of questionnaires, so I threw them in here because that is an advantage. There are questionnaires out there as well as apps, that you can download, either on your phone or device to assist you in digital well-being and parental control tools, the next one. So there is a digital screen exposure questionnaire. There's also an advantage in that we can build resiliency, emotional well-being, exploratory skills, independence, self-motivation, organization, time management, problem solving. I want to get through everything, so I'm sorry if I'm rushing, but I do want to just kind of review. There are many advantages to screen time if you can balance and do it in the correct way. Instructional skills, teaching kids to ask questions or have certain discussions, follow directions, language development skills, problem solving skills, school readiness skills. There's also a screen cue, which I came across in my research to measure use and habits. So I thought that was interesting. And everything, there's bias in a lot of these research articles, depending on where the data comes from. Sometimes the data can be subjective, coming from the parents. The parents might want to answer in a certain way that makes them look better. So, we have to take all things with a grain of salt. There is, the Mac, iPhone, iPad. You can apply screen time to all devices signed in with an Apple ID. Their sensory motor development skills, social skills can improve, visual processing skills can improve. It all, again, depends on time. How much time somebody is allowing. In all things, there is balance. There's been a pretty big impact technology wise. I think, especially since COVID. My son was a high school junior when COVID hit, and so we saw the impact for sure, especially with sports. He wasn't able to play his junior baseball season, and that had a huge impact. And so I did list as part of the impact here, that there is a possibility of some anger post COVID from parents, right? Lost opportunities, lost friendships, just in general with the whole collective trauma. There's going back up to the top here. Academic achievement may or may not be impacted. We do have to examine the literature, and we have to decide for ourselves. There could be things that are important to me that are not important to Katie. I might want to prioritize certain things, while Katie might want to prioritize more, physical health. And so everybody is very different. And so we have to kind of allow people to be. There is going to be adverse childhood experiences, regardless of technology, regardless of what happens. We're all going to have challenges and obstacles in life. Every generation has a different set. We also could have a concern with the future, but the past doesn't necessarily equal the present. There could be some uncertainty with regards to what's happening. AI, is my job going to be taken away from me with new technology, what have you? So I do want to bring up, it is important, the parents' perception and the parents' viewpoint of screen time, of technology in general, because you're gauging what you view, and then you're taking that and building upon that for rules for your children or your household or your environment. So we're all going to have distractions, and screen time can be very habit forming. We might want to ask ourselves, we might want to start with us as the parent, what are we avoiding by distracting ourselves? What are we, what are we ignoring? if anything, if we find ourselves, distracted by that scrolling. And I think we've all been there. We're all flawed, we're human. I have many flaws myself, and it's important, I think, to explain addictions, age appropriate to children, and how we can form unhealthy habits. We also are a society of comparison. So we tend to compare our family, our home life to others. We could be fearful of judgments from family, friends, neighbors, and teachers. Maybe we do have to work long hours, or maybe there is only one parent in the household, and every situation is very, very different. I would just caution against comparison, because it only kind of puts us in this downward spiral. Lower test scores can occur at any time. We tend as a society to point the finger. We don't want to take accountability for ourselves sometimes, and that's everyone. That's every single person. We tend to, blame the son for cancer, or we blame, the teacher for the poor grade, or we blame something else. And so, I don't want people to get into blaming specifically technology, as or screen time as a culprit, when there could be a root issue, or something deeper that needs to be examined. And it's all based on conditioning. It's all based on what we're programmed to believe. I use the mirror effect with clients a lot of times. We tend to mirror outwards what's internal to us. So if you're in conversation with somebody and they're presenting as anger, but it's coming across as they're angry at you, please understand that it's probably not about you. It's probably that anger internal to them that they're projecting or reflecting outward. So just keep that in mind. We tend to bring into relationship whatever is internal to us. If we value ourselves and love ourselves, we'll have more value in the relationship. If we have internal conflict, there's going to be conflict in the relationship. We could also be perceiving threat. And I'll talk about this a little bit in the subsequent slides, but a lot of people could be in a dysregulated nervous system state, or they could have one of their reflexes disconnected, meaning we have a moro reflex that goes to fight or flight. And we also have a fear paralysis reflex that goes to the freeze state. And if we've been through trauma and it hasn't been healed, one of those reflexes could be disconnected. And there's a very simple exercise to reconnect that. So I don't want people to be living in a distorted reality or be perceiving threat when the threat is not there. So, that's something just to, have some kind of conversation with yourself about, right, at a later time. We have to think about how the issue of safety too triggers our past experiences in which we weren't protected. So if we're fearful, for example, of somebody, luring our child into something, how does that connect? Because everything does typically connect to something that you might have been through, that might be unprocessed. Because, we really need to have awareness, and we don't want to project onto our children, what our issue could be. And we could have a belief system in our head about what technology is and isn't. It could be a limiting belief, or it might not be, but how do you define technology? What is it equal to you? Is it about accuracy, convenience, efficiency, engagement? Does it equal information, opportunities, or Or, on the negative end, is it about cyberbullying? Is it about focus issues, anxiety, depression, health issues, overeating, risks and danger? Like, how do we see it? How do we perceive it? I think that's really important as well, because your child could perceive it in a different way. And it's a discussion, it's a discussion that you should have. I have a bunch of strategies that I've listed out. Some could be helpful to you, some may not be. Accountability, holding yourself and your child responsible is really important. It's hard to do. None of us want to say that we've made a mistake. I've made plenty of parenting mistakes. And so, I will come out with that. And when we learn from them, we don't repeat them. One of my mottos is we repeat what we don't repair. So when we can learn from them, I think that's important. It is important to ask questions, age appropriate, of course, depending on how old your child is. I use this question with my son: how happy are you on a scale between 1 and 10? And, what was the number answer? And okay, if you're a 6, what would make you feel happier? Or what do you think you need right now? Or what is it that you're not getting? Right? It's just this kind of check-in, it's a quick, simple check-in that you can do with a child. All things in moderation. Balance is important. The screen time should not replace connection, communication, and conversation. I think that as humans, we are all meant for connection. And so, I don't want technology to take away from that. I don't believe we should be having conversations over text messages. I think a lot of things can get lost. I think people don't get the full perspective when you're not in front of them. They don't see you. They can't see your body language. It's important to calendar things, have people, have your kids look forward to something. You could plan one-on-one time or an event, place it in a central location. This is a reward, or this is what we get to celebrate, or go out and do as a family. If we're abiding by the house rules, abiding by the rules of screen time, for whatever. Changing your focus can be extremely helpful. If we're focused on the negatives of technology or the negatives of screen time, we're actually going to be bringing in more of that. If we focus on the good, and we are in gratitude, we're going to be bringing in more of the good. We actually end up magnetically, our energy, ends up magnetically attracting where we are. I think it's important to give kids choice, options. If you decide, depending on their age, 1 hour screen time versus 3 or whatever, depending on their age, provide them options so that they know what their choices are. Okay, you can play this game, or you can do this educational, video, or like provide them options and have them choose, because that actually empowers them. If something feels off, use your intuition, right? Communicate, connect. Coping mechanisms, we do not want screen time or somebody to go pick up their phone to cope. And so we really want to educate on habit forming addictions. Scrolling activates the brain's reward center. So instead of that, a probiotic, light therapy lamps, I mentioned sound therapy later in the presentation. Anything to raise one's frequency can be really helpful. Physical activity, of course, anything that allows for more dopamine. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of rolling through this. So additional strategies, how do we define success with screen time? What does that mean to mom or dad versus the child? And of course, an older child, are you on the same page? And that's important because, as kids get older in certain grades, they might have more requirements over over screen than other people. They might have a blackboard, an educational blackboard, where they have to do discussion groups or what have you. And so there might be more screen time needed depending on certain classes. And Katie gave me this term of digital wellness, and this is all the new stuff, right? On frequency and use. How much are we using the technology, and how can we evaluate that? And there are a lot of tools on our phones and devices that we can implement, and have some control. It's important to explain the obvious. Again, polarity in all things. There's always going to be good and bad in all things. It's important in your environment to declutter, be mindful of the elements in your home: air, earth, fire, and water. Exceptions are always going to be necessary. So we're always going to have to make exceptions if there's a research project, or if there's something else going on. Maybe somebody needs additional screen time. At each stage of development, ensure you're communicating your expectations. We sometimes believe that other people can read our minds, or they just have a knowing of what we're going to expect as a parent, or but sometimes it is important to have those conversations. Fantasy versus reality, right? Explain the concept, look for opportunities for discussion, because we do want somebody, not being lost in movies, for example, right? In the fantasy. Flexibility, surrender the fight. Sometimes it's important just to choose your battles. Everything doesn't have to be a fight. There's games, of course, on digital devices to teach. We can teach our kids how to lose, with grace. And patience. Not everyone will win all the time, and I think that's important. I included a strategy here to commit to your own healing and self-discovery journey, so that you can help your kids, and be in joy. Don't take life too seriously. Have fun. Determine what you may have outgrown, right? Make sure you're dancing and living. I thought this was interesting. I do a lot of life path stuff with my clients, and so if you are to figure out a child's life path number, for example, and I'll tell you how to do that, you can really determine what their strengths and weaknesses are, and that can work for you, not against you, when you're planning for things. So in determining somebody's life path number, what you would do is you would take all of the digits of their date of birth. For example, my birthday was yesterday. So you would take the all of the digits, and you would add it together until you get a single digit number. I'll use my son, since I really don't want to disclose the year of my birth right now. But my son's birthday is February 24th, 2003. So in order to determine his life path, you would add 2 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 3. And you would get a 13, and you keep adding until you get a single digit. And my son is a life path 4, and life path 4s really need their downtime. After school specifically, he needed time to decompress. Life path 4s do have an attention to detail. They're hard workers, but they need downtime. And it is very interesting, right? Because if you have a life path 1, for example, they could lack patience. And so that might be something that you want to work with them on, right? Your 2s are more of the team players. 3s are your creative ones. Communicating comes easy, but they may procrastinate. A life path 5 is adaptable, but they really do not like routine. So they like to have things mixed up, right? A number 6 is a great listener, is supportive of everyone. So you might have to really kind of focus in on having them, prioritize their own needs. A 7 is very independent, investigative, and analytic. So, they're going to question a lot of things. That's a spiritual person, a religious person, typically. An 8 is a natural problem solver, but they need to know their limits because they could burn out. A 9 is compassionate. They look for resolution. They're the humanitarians. They have deep emotions. They need outlets for their emotions. So I think it's interesting because as a parent, when you're learning about what works in your own relationship, it is important to kind of also understand what works in the relationship with your child, because they're going to have different needs. They're going to learn differently than you. And so I threw that in as kind of like a fun thing.
Christine, we just
Mine's
had a quick question here in the
sure.
chat.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Just wondering what theory the life paths are based off of.
That's based off of numerology. So I'm Catholic spiritual. So I combine religion and spirituality in my practice. I think it's been separated and divided for far too long. I will look at the old Greek Egyptian ways, Pythagoras, old philosophers, they studied the stars, right? There is always a map, the map of the stars, or our natal charts, our astrological chart can tell us a lot of information. Albeit you might have learned that those things were taboo. So please excuse me. I don't mean to offend if I am doing that with anyone. I just want to make sure people are aware of, what options exist out there for data. So mind strategy, I do mind strategy with people because I do believe I'm working on a paradigm shift. I don't believe counseling and therapy has been extremely helpful. And I'll tell you why. A lot of people come to me, they're misdiagnosed, and they're on multiple medications that they don't need to be on. And the counselors and therapists don't necessarily fix the mind. And I think the mind and the mind, body, and soul, the mind, body, spirit, all has to kind of align. And when our mind is in conflict with our heart, for example, we could have some internal conflict. So I work with clients on negative thinking or any limiting beliefs. And so it could be that we just need to look at, regarding technology or screen time, what is it that we believe to be true? And do we have negative, thoughts about this based on something that happened to us or something that we heard? We tend to adapt other people's belief systems as well. So it is important to kind of evaluate every so often, if something still works for you, or if you've outgrown it and need to release it. Always opportunities for growth. Look for them. Look for ways to teach lessons. You all are the role models, right? Practice what you preach, which is hard to do. We're sitting in our bed scrolling on our phone. And I think when I looked at the research, a lot of people were recommending, putting the phone, a phone or tablet or iPad or whatever device, putting it down an hour before bedtime. And I'm actually recommending 3 hours before bedtime. That's my recommendation. Go to the library, read, the old-fashioned books. That's kind of important, I think. Release perfectionism. We all kind of might have grown up in some codependent dysfunction. So we need to say goodbye to anything codependent. Perfectionism doesn't actually exist. And if you look at the root word of perfection, it goes back to completion. And I believe, right, that we were to complete cycles, complete cycles, learn lessons in our life. We're all far from perfect. And again, as human beings, we're all flawed. Responsibility, delegate, allow other people to help. Uh, self-esteem, affirmations, and being authentic can be very helpful. More confidence means less escapism. So if we can kind of teach our kids to improve their confidence level by through affirmations, for example, I am confident, I am successful, I am valuable, I am worthy. That can really reprogram one's mind and their thinking, and put them into a higher vibrational state. And again, anytime that you increase the self-esteem, there's not going to be a need to escape into you know the uh, the things about the things about technology that are negative. Spirituality, religion, um, and I give people like there's the physical piece, the emotional piece, the social piece, and the spirituality religion piece. And I think we need to have balance in all four quadrants. And I do believe this is a time for a great awakening. I do believe people are going through spiritual awakenings. Most people don't understand that. There's actually over 20 physical symptoms that correlate with a spiritual awakening, to include depression and anxiety, and it's temporary. It is absolutely normal for us also to have situational depression. It's normal for us to be anxious. It's normal for us to grieve. Those are all normal things. And that's one reason why I choose not to diagnose and not to label, because it keeps people stuck in a victim mentality or scarcity mindset. Support is important. We might have grown up with families that didn't motivate and inspire, so make sure we're being supportive to others in our family. And really differentiate between a follower and a leader. We want our children to be authentic and independent, and we want them to lead, not follow. Time management, evaluate the now, release what no longer serves. Be conscious of your triggers, what triggers you, and what triggers them. I was the biggest hover mom I think that ever existed, because my son was diagnosed type 1 diabetic. So at age 5, he had a blood sugar of over 900, and he almost died. And so I wanted to make sure, of course, that he didn't. So I really hovered, and didn't allow him sometimes to grow and become his own independent self. So I would say trust more, hover less. Understand every child is different, will have different needs. Use your logic and intuition when making decisions, and teach your kids to do that too. When we're making decisions based on what we think and what we feel, we're more likely to make a good decision. And we have to teach worthiness. It's not based on likes on social media or what everyone else has or is doing. It's based on internal, knowing our value, knowing our worth as a human being, right? And volunteer, choosing a cause. It's all about creating balance, and in all things having moderation. There's several solutions that I just wanted to point out here, and I'm sure many of you know about these or have heard of them. I was looking at the Gab Watch 3 and the Verizon Gizmo Watch. The Gab Watch 3, and I have listed a couple things here, does GPS tracking. It's affordable. It's better, I think, for children that are younger. The Verizon Gizmo Watch is maybe best for older kids, has an SOS button, also has GPS tracking. And some of you might know about these gadgets more so than I do, so feel free to jump in. I also looked at blue light blocking glasses because they improve sleep quality. There's less frequent headaches. You might want to use clear lenses for everyday use, orange lenses for dim environments. And as I was meditating and seeking direction and guidance, these are some of the better blue light blocking glasses that came up for me. And I've listed them here and I've provided the links. And I will send this presentation to Katie if anybody is interested in having this information. I also came across a Somnilite red nightlight, and I did some research on that. I actually have one in my own bedroom. It stimulates melatonin production. It supports circadian rhythm. It helps with muscle gain and can improve productivity. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm actually trying it out right now. You can find 2 of them on Amazon for I think $14.99. They're pretty cost effective. There's a lot of light filtering apps too out there. There's the Rescue Time app, which is a productivity tool. And I've also previously mentioned a couple of questionnaires that parents might want to be interested in downloading so that you can review the questions. The Rescue Time app is a tracker. It improves time management, helps us understand focus habits, and automatically blocks distractions. There's also scheduling apps such as Greenlight, Busy Kid, and Cozy, which you may or may not be familiar with. I put that I think it's really important to keep in mind bedrooms should be screen-free zones. I totally agree with that. Although I don't adhere to it, as an adult, I probably should. And you should, I think that the guidance I was getting was turning off, devices 3 hours before bedtime. And I know that's not what most of the data states, but that's what I would go with. For light sensitivity, there's the Axon Optics glasses. That would be the best option for people that have photophobia or frequent headaches, really, very sensory sensitive there. I also kind of wanted to mention this since we were talking about glasses and blue light and eyes and all of that. The FDA recently did a warning to discontinue 26 over-the-counter eye drop products. So of course, a lot of these ingredients can be, have multiple aliases. So it's important to understand that. I don't even know how to pronounce some of these, right? Hydroxypropyl methylcellulose is also known as several other ingredients, right? And it can cause blurred vision and light sensitivity and irritability. And so maybe you want to use a humidifier opposed to eye drops for dry eyes. You might just want to look at, and this is for all things, what ingredients are in medications you're taking, what ingredients are in medications your kids are taking. Is the efficacy in question? Do we need to have a medication reevaluation? I think it's important every so often to reevaluate and reassess what's working for you and what's not working. I mentioned sound therapy earlier. I actually did a light and sound study for one of my businesses, and I did a mood questionnaire for people, and they actually their mood improved over time with sound therapy and light therapy. And I would recommend anything over 500 frequency to increase somebody's vibration. A physical wellness exam is always helpful. I get mine every year. Blood work to check for any deficiencies, checking hormones, of course, for you and your children, checking the Moro reflex and fear paralysis reflex, as I mentioned earlier. That's your fight, flight, and freeze response. Taking supplements and looking at your medication list and what ingredients are in those. And looking at any kind of root cause, really kind of with this issue as with any other issues, asking yourself, how do you feel about it? And does this keep coming up for you? And when have you felt these feelings before? Have they been attached to other losses or traumas or stressors in your life? So I created the retrograph. There's a website there. It's a tool. I've also got that connected to my business. It's just helpful and like a timeline to plot out anything that's repeating, so you can have a visual representation of what's impacted you. Teach your children to speak truth. Teach your children to come to you with any problems that they can, all issues are solvable, right? Of course, teach your children about bullying, cyberbullying, safety, of course. And have unannounced periodic reviews. Take their devices and examine their apps, check their contacts, check their settings. Who have they added? Who have they, gotten rid of? Search their photos. Like, you're the parent, you're in charge, you have, the right to kind of check their devices. There are several resources here that I added too. The American Psychological Association has a fabulous website where you can search children's books by subject. So if there is an underlying issue, if it's about fear, for example, let's get a book on fear, and let's make sure we're providing resources. That didn't come up right. I don't know why that didn't come up right. There is a podcast that I wanted to share. Their episode 225 here, speaking of psychology, why our attention spans are shrinking. And this goes to computers and screen time and smartphones. This Dr. Gloria Mark has done a podcast here that you all might find interesting. And maybe understanding, how we can regain our focus. I've also added an article here: reducing social media use improves appearance and weight esteem in youth with emotional distress. There was a journal article there. And this was a thick booklet on protecting teens on social media that I found. It's called Monitor on Psychology. And I tried to include more up-to-date information. And so this is a whole journal or a magazine or a booklet that's definitely focused on social media protection. And then, like I mentioned, I do believe a lot of us are going through a spiritual awakening. I have a great website resource for that. It's lonerwolf.com. And that's it. And so I do assist clients in reducing stress, loss, and trauma without diagnosis. I have several session delivery options: in person, phone, or app. I'm located in Percival, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions if they have arisen, or talk about anything that anybody wants to talk about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. I loved that. It's really like a high level of the social emotional aspect of the screen time, and just the effects of that dopamine addiction and the balance. I think a lot of it, you talked a lot about having balance and seeing both sides of everything. And I feel, within the last, since like you talked about in the beginning, COVID, that balance has shifted and it's so heavy, and we just need to be more present. I always struggle with, even going on vacation, like taking pictures and videos and posting. It's like, you want to take pictures, but also you want to be present in the moment, and you lose a little bit of that. And just like you said here on the last couple of slides, reflecting too on talking to your kids, right? Like, put down the phone, put down the devices, and how was your day? Like, we're so quick to just go right to the phone, like sitting next to somebody in the airport, or even like my own husband,
Right.
my spouse, like we're just like this all the time. And there's so many detrimental effects that like you said, spiritually, physically, emotionally, socially, they're all connected. And a lot of it stems from this.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I mean, we've just been programmed as a society to kind of look down, right? And that's unfortunate because there's so many things to look up to.
Mhm.
And we're not looking up. And so if we can improve our posture and get outside and understand all the things that we're missing. People are so fearful that they're going to miss something online. You don't have to answer right away, and you don't have to respond right away. I mean, I would actually recommend you take time before drafting a response, because sometimes we can become emotionally reactive and respond when too quickly, and then that could come back to hurt us, right? I think, there are some valid concerns on both sides, right? This is detrimental, this is good. I think a lot of it is, again, about balance. It's about our priorities. I think there are a lot of people who overwork, and people need to reprioritize. I find it hard sometimes to take the time for myself and get outside or go to the park or walk or go to the gym or whatever. Sometimes it's really difficult because well, I don't have time for that. I have to get this and this done, right? But we actually have masculine and feminine traits in all of us, and we are actually more productive when we increase and use those feminine traits, which is our creativity, our intuition, feeling, rest, recovery, all of those things. When we are really in tune with our feminine traits, we're more productive in our masculine side. And a lot of people don't know that. We've kind of become a society of people that don't feel. And I would caution that, because we can't live if we're not feeling, and everybody deserves to be in joy. And that's what I help people do, is balance everything out, connect to themselves, connect to their higher power, so that they can have life fulfillment, right?
Absolutely. When I think back to the childhood screen time and the kids part of it, I don't have kids, but we travel a lot. And I remember very distinctly sitting on the airplane. And sometimes when you see kids boarding, you're like, oh boy, what's it going to be? And this wonderful, this mother sat in front of us. I think it was like a year ago, and she had two kids. They looked like twins, and she sat in between, and they sat on either side of her. And it was this wonderful balance of technology and talking to them. They had matching like little iPad cases, matching headphones. So, it wasn't loud on the plane for them. And she sat them down, and before they went into their devices, she talked to them. She said, this is what's happening. The pilot's going to say some things. Oh, let's watch the safety video. And they were asking questions. And then when, it was time to take off, she was like, oh, do you feel like we're going really fast? And they were so calm and so relaxed. And then it was time for them to do the digital part of it, and they were so well behaved. And it was the same thing when we landed. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this mother like has it down. Like what a phenomenal like balance it was to see. Sometimes they do. It's nice to hand off an iPad in those situations, but also requires, she limited their anxiety. And the same thing happened, different opposite end of the spectrum happened. I was sitting in first class, and this young, like probably 2 or 3 year old boy was sitting next to his mom in first class behind me, and a wreck. Like they just buckled him in, and that was it. No talking. And so this poor boy was screaming, anxiety, upset, scared. They didn't have anything for him, like, and they just wanted him to be an adult and just, you sit and this is what we do for the next like couple hours. So it's just, I don't know, really interesting. Like it's so important to have the mix of the two.
Absolutely, absolutely, and to have the discussions because we can see things very differently from our perspective than our kids. And my son was definitely a PlayStation player, so but he needed the decompression time after school. So I also understood that piece of it, right? So yeah, balance in all things. Definitely difficult when you are a mom and a wife and a worker outside the home and you have all the responsibilities, so definite possible need to reprioritize or even in your marriage, right, kind of have a sit down conversation with your spouse about what roles and responsibilities need to shift, right? Because a lot of times the females end up taking the majority. And so, what can we shift or delegate over to the child or to the spouse, or what can we save for later? So it's just looking at our priorities and getting back to connecting with ourselves and connecting with the people in our homes. And yeah, all things have balance.
I love that. And just personally, I've tried to be more aware of the dopamine hit. The scrolling, it's the first thing that I do every morning at breakfast. I'm checking my email, I'm scrolling, I'm checking the social media, business wise and personal wise. And you can get stuck. And I find myself get stuck taking a break in the afternoon. I always hit that like 3-4 o'clock low and I turn to Instagram because it's all
Right,
my brain can handle, but then all of a sudden it's so easy, 10, 15, 20 minutes goes by. So you kind of have to like set the timer, be aware. It's hard to balance, especially when you're a business owner and you need social media strategies, you need
right,
marketing. But when to turn it off. And I do wear blue light glasses. I don't have them on right now just for the presentation, but what a huge difference.
right,
I mean, but prior to blue light glasses, I would be tired. My eyes would be tired at the end of the day. When I wear my blue light glasses and I work all day on the computer, I have way more energy in the afternoon. I'm like, all right, time to go to the gym, time to go for a run or whatever it is. My try Ironman training, like, but if I don't wear them, then I get tired.
right. And everybody is different, right? And so what works for a parent may not work for their child, or what works for a child may not work for another child. And so I think really keeping in mind and respecting, everyone is different in their needs. And so really kind of figuring that out. Sometimes we're just so quick, I think, as parents to oh, this works for me, or this is what everybody says to do.
Right.
So we're going to do it, but what if it doesn't work for the child? What if it doesn't, it's not something that, that maybe they get angry about a certain solution or something, or they feel that it's forced upon them. I just think it's, more conversation is definitely needed. And I think as a society, we've been somewhat fearful to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
None of us want to get rejected or right, or talked down to, or anything like that, but I think we should be asking a lot more questions. I think we should be asking a lot more questions of our doctors. I think we should be asking a lot more questions of our partners in relationship, our spouses, our children. In order to maintain healthy relationships, we have to nourish them, and they change. I mean, we're all supposed to evolve and grow and gain conscious awareness, and so hopefully we're doing that with a partner or spouse. And when we do that, we outgrow certain things. And it's important to be mindful of what it is we've outgrown, whether it's a friendship or a job, or or what have you, a certain solution we might not find helpful any longer. So it is important to kind of just reevaluate, reassess every so often.
I love that. Yeah. And it starts with sometimes putting the phone down and having, especially dinner conversations. I always try to flip it over, or put it in my bag, or I'm somebody who keeps my volume off, like my phone's on silent 24/7,
Right,
just because I don't want to hear it all, and like you said, it's okay if I don't get back to them right away. Like,
right.
when I went studied abroad in Australia, I was somebody robbed me within the first month there, so I didn't have like a cell phone or computer,
Oh
and
my
I actually
goodness.
yeah, but I got used to not having a cell phone, and then when I came back to the US, I was like, "Ugh," like it changed everything. And I was talking to a different wellness expert yesterday, and she was saying her daughter just came back from Africa, and when she was in Africa for her study abroad thing, she chose to not be have a cell phone either for an entire month. And it's changed everything. So it's interesting, you think we need it, but in reality, opens our eyes to other things. But
Very, very true. I actually don't have television. And so, I've removed myself from the negativity of um, the media, the news, right? And so, it can be a distraction. And so, sometimes we think that we have to have it. We must have this because everybody else has this, and we're going to be missing something if we don't. But I think it's actually been better for me not to have television, but
that's
everybody's different.
I commend you for doing that. Unfortunately, we have a TV in our bedroom, and I know I've been in other Airbnbs or whatever people's houses, and they don't have TVs, or they have strict rules of no TVs in their bedroom. I aspire to that. I respect it, and I hope someday that I can get to that point. Because yeah, it does affect your relationships and that part. But thank you so. We're wrapping up our time. I'm so grateful.
Yes.
Thank you so much for stepping in. For this presentation, and for everybody, so I think we have one person left. Maybe the folks had to duck off for their lunch hour. This has been recorded, and so you can access it on our YouTube channel. I'll also, sounds like Christine will send me the
Yes.
presentation. So I'll send everybody, the 15 people on the email list, the actual presentation and the recording on YouTube. And then we will repost it for social media link too on our so a little bit of digital things,
Yeah.
but got to have the
I'm
balance.
grateful. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I am very grateful. And so I do appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. You're so welcome. I'm gonna hit